Hey there, friends. It's April 13th, 2021, and just to situate this with some contextualizing narrative, my mom, who's 92 almost, like in a week, has gotten her first COVID shot, but I'm still waiting. I'm in the lottery system, right? In Oregon, we register, and I'll be assigned a time to go to the convention center. I didn't get mine when mom did because I'd had a shingles booster right then, and I'm following protocol and being a good guinea pig. Now, what I'm showing on screen is like theological stuff, and I'm wearing a hat that looks kind of like I might be from a religious group. And indeed, I'll travel in airports like this, and I'm treated as a member of one of those ethnic groups, whatever they are. You can't keep track, but American airports have these kind of rustic hatted characters going through sometimes, and they're especially polite to us, whoever we are. And in this case, Quaker, and I'm in this channel a lot talking about how to wire up American Transcendentalism, which goes back to pre Civil War, right? This is a new country. It hasn't even made it across to California yet as a country. The process of adding states is ongoing. They start out as territories and they either mature to states or not. And it's a lot of a story there. And I'm, say, a high school teacher in some elite school. I actually do teach at an elite school sometimes over the wire, right? By Zoom or whatever. But the point being, I already know the high school curriculum, and I know that we go into Thoreau's life. He's one of these transcendentalists, and he spends a night in jail. Woohoo, a whole night, right? But there's like a whole play about it. And why? Why did he spend the night in jail? Something to do with civil disobedience. And, but what? What's the issue? So that brings us back to that the nation is moving very quickly to grow across what we now consider, the territories have all been formed, and we have a picture that we see every day in the weather report, in the national news. We have a picture of this is our state, right? Or our federation, the whole lower 48, and then there's Hawaii and Alaska. That's where we stand at the moment, right? The 50 stars and all that. So I'm dialing us back. By the way, let's just scroll a bit through here. 2021 now. I'm going to get back to Thoreau here, but going forward to a future transcendentalist chapter. Now here's where I face a bit of a uphill battle, and that our tendency is to have these short chunks like romanticism, transcendentalism. What is it? What are we in now, right? Is this pragmatism? Is pragmatism on that same progression? I'm not opposed to those kind of like namespaces locally for like a day or two, but then we don't always have to talk that way. So I want transcendentalism to have spawned a lineage, and then I'm putting Buckminster Fuller, the grandnephew of Margaret Fuller, into the picture through the transcendentalist window. But I'm not saying he did that too. He did not come to us and say, when you teach my stuff, link it into transcendentalism. I'm not aware of anywhere that Bucky himself like put that in his will or something. I'm just saying from the point of view of curriculum design, we want to bring forward all this self-introspection about what was America going to become. Was it going to become an empire or a democracy? And is there a choice, or can it be both, or what? Right? And the thing is, Western civilization already had that story, already taught all down the generations about how the Republic of Rome became the Empire of Rome and what that involved, and how we started out in Rome without emperors and then ended up with emperors, right? And in a way, the effort to start over in the Americas was an attempt to dial back to pre-Rome, pre-empires, or at least get out of the whole empire thing. So as people saw that we were descending into empire in the manifest destiny drive to make the U.S. what we know it today, the cost of that, getting it to be what we know it today, is it earned itself some, I would say, implacable foes, but people loyal and patriotic to the original vision. So they don't consider themselves outsiders. They consider themselves originals, right? We know what made America great. So they're not apologetic, let's put it that way, in their resistance of the empire. They don't regard that. That's Euro thinking. That's a disease that spread across. And the turning point was probably around the Dulles brothers and the desire to go into Indochina to bolster the French and so on in the aftermath of World War II. And along those lines, again, I'm tying us into a curriculum here. We're doing Bucky Fuller, we're doing Margaret Fuller, we're looking at some interesting mathematics that's embedded in Bucky's stuff that's not appreciated because people stop at the dome. They don't know about the car. If they learn about the car, they learn it flipped over. Interesting story, tie in there to, what was America like in those days? And what was Bucky trying to do with that car? All very interesting. I'm not against talking about the car. But I think the dome is more interesting. You could say, well, that really wasn't his. There's the Jenna Dome by Bowersfeld. But I'm not that interested in priority. But if push comes to shove, let's treat synergetics as his claim to priority. At least here, he's picked up some memes that we can't easily trace back to who he copied from, right? And it's really hard for us, therefore, to understand what he's saying because it's kind of new. But I think in this blog post, just to tie this off, where I'm linking also back to Wayne Roberts, who I can't see as being a follower of Bucky in any way. In other words, an independent voice, great minds think alike, is doing in a flat surface with his Utragon and ETU what Bucky later is doing with the tetrahedron and his unit volume tetrahedron. So that's 21st century transcendentalism, I would claim. And then I would point to other places in the Fuller syllabus and Bucky's own writings, right, where he too is wrestling with schizophrenia of the Americas. The story there. Is it an empire that's to conquer the world? Is it a beacon of hope for freedom and democracy and an invitation to come build the nation here? Or is it about nation building everywhere else? Or what? What is it about? Right, so these are not themes I'm going to sort of sit here and resolve in the last 2 minutes of my video. I'm just trying to make a coherent story where the themes that I'm talking about have always been the themes, right? It's not just Bucky who invented utopia or oblivion, heaven or hell or whatever. It's like we have this sense of destiny, of fate, of whatever, and he's got an interesting take on everything. The Fuller literature is a good lens through which to see the same history you look at through any other number of lenses, right? Not somehow the one and only glasses to put on. I'm not saying that. In fact, the glasses I provide at my websites and so on are quite distinct from Bucky's in a lot of ways, but also influenced thereby. And I'm trying to make that be kind of a confluence thing in the river sense in intellectual history. Like, I don't want it to just be about me, which it may end up being, if I don't succeed. But my goal is to make it more like there's Quakerism, which is looking backward at Walt Whitman with great interest for reasons we can point to as going to Elias Hicks' sermon when he was a young kid and the nice things that Whitman said about Elias Hicks after the latter had died, kind of in a eulogistic way. I mean, I think the connection from Quakers to Walt Whitman is clear. And Thoreau's ambivalence about imperialism, that's a Quaker theme as well. And that it's all over the place in Bucky is what endears him to us, I could say, as a Quaker, right? And then I carry the banner forward, mainly by defending his use of 4D as a meme, right? That's what I've got at academia.edu, kirbyearner.academia.edu. Under research, you can download this PDF. Let me open it. I've just been downloading. I have it, of course, but I'm showing you the process. If you want to get involved in this curriculum, what I've been talking to you about, clearly I don't know all that much about it. I mean, let me take that back. I know a lot about it, but like exactly what the war with Mexico looked like, that's a huge story. And where do you want to draw the line around time and space there, right? Like I'm studying it, but I'm not the super expert, right? But what I'm seeing is a sort of a way to traverse the quick curriculum in an intelligent and quick manner by using like American Transcendentalism as kind of a backbone. I take it through Sam Hill actually, because I think we're trying to, in the Transcendentalist tradition, with our egalitarianism, we're trying to resolve the whole idea of royals. You know, what is it that we have in Europe and in Asia and elsewhere? This sort of sharp, almost, and based in genetic theories or theories about blood, like some biological explanation for why there are rulers and ruled. And slavery brings this to a head. But it's not really, all of this thing about, communism versus capitalism, whatever. Behind all that, there's a struggle to uh, either justify or get rid of some of this class and racism that dogs us through the centuries. So I think those themes are no way unique to me and no way unique to just Quakers or just Bucky, but they all fit together. Or Transcendentalism. Transcendentalism, I emphasize because that's already where, in the standard curriculum, we we bring up that ambivalence voluntarily in connection with Thoreau's night in jail, which was because of his protest against the war with Mexico. Right? And the whole Manifest Destiny meme, look up Mark Twain, Anti-Imperialist League, right? And then think forward to Vietnam and think of how many in the OSS were very sympathetic to what Ho was up to, what he wanted to do, be free of outside colonial powers, right? That's a very American value. And if you're just going to turn your back on that and say, no, we're just going to be an empire, you're going to earn yourself some enemies, even, right there in your neighborhood. What's going to happen? So this is how to just get involved if you want to start with the mathy part in synergetics. I've got it all distilled down to how you could present it to an audience, and I narrate the slideshow 5 or 6 times going back in time in my YouTube channel to give you an example of how you could just download this PDF and go out there and slap your own narrative over it, right? But listen to mine a few times and get what we're talking about, okay? Like present it in a coherent, intelligent way. You want to do that? I want you to do that, and you want to do that. So we have a common interest here. I'm not charging for this. I'm just hoping it is a clear synthesis and synopsis of what I'm talking about when I say synergetics in point 2, Buckminster Fuller. All right, so that's where we're up to right now. I'm not going to scroll through the rest of it, but I think I'll give you time to think about this. There's a whole archaeological layer, really, of, you could say they're not really hippies, because I don't think J. Baldwin was really a hippie in some ways. But they're engineer types, software engineers. Like today, we could call them software engineers. Like I, as an open source geek, have never had problems working with Russians or Iranians or whatever, right? It's like the people working on the global assets that we all share, open source sharing methods, um, we're not really trained to think about how we're adversaries. No, we are working together, but that also puts us in with the Bucky camp, believe it or not. That's part of how we're basically interested in deprogramming ourselves in a lot of ways. Code of conduct, especially around gender bias, it's a tough process, but engineers have taken it on. I'm not saying engineers are male, I'm saying engineers are taking it on. Um, and so let's keep working. Let's keep working on what we're doing. Talk to you soon.